Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are zoning in on just one verse.
Just one.
Ephesians 4.2. And on the surface, it sounds, almost polite. With all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love.
But the sources we're looking at argue that this verse is absolute dynamite. Socially, culturally, It was explosive.
Okay, so what makes it so explosive? I mean, where does this verse even sit in the letter?
It's the pivot. It's the absolute fulcrum of the whole thing.
The pivot from what to what?
From theology to reality. For 3 whole chapters, Paul's been talking in these soaring terms: election, redemption, all this big picture indicative stuff.
What God has done.
Exactly. And then boom, he hits you with therefore. And everything from that point on is the imperative.
It's how you're supposed to live it all out.
Right. How that eternal reality translates into gritty, friction-filled, earthly conduct.
And the sources argue this is way more than a guide to being nice. They call it a radical sociological manifesto.
A very radical one. To get it, you have to picture first century Ephesus.
Okay, so what was that culture like?
Think power. Think wealth. The whole city was built on the pursuit of tapeina. That's honor, status.
So everyone's trying to climb the ladder, assert themselves.
Constantly. And in that kind of honor-shame world, the Greek word for humility, tapeinos, it wasn't a virtue, it was an insult.
An insult.
Oh, absolutely. It meant you were a socio-political failure, a loser. It was a mindset for a slave, not a free citizen.
So Paul is commanding this new community to embrace an identity that their entire culture just despises.
He had to. Internally, this command was a survival strategy. The wall of hostility between Jew and Gentile was broken, yes, but the rubble was still there in daily life.
Okay, so how on earth do you take a cultural slur like tapeinos and turn it into a core virtue?
You redefine it completely. And the early church rooted it in the nature of God himself.
In the incarnation, right?
Precisely. Philippians 2.8 says Christ humbled himself. The King of the universe voluntarily descends. All of a sudden, humility isn't failure. It's the ultimate sign of divine strength.
Okay, so that's humility. What about gentleness? Prautēs. We hear meek and we think weak. Passive.
Which is the total opposite of the classical meaning. The metaphor they used was a trained warhorse.
A warhorse.
Yeah, think about it. It has all this power, all this fire, but it's completely under control. Gentleness is reserved strength.
It's having the power to crush someone and choosing not to.
Exactly. It's power used for serving, not for self-aggrandizement.
So if gentleness is controlled power, what about patience? Macrothumia.
That literally means long-tempered. Or you could think of it as having a long fuse.
And it's not about being patient with, bad traffic.
No, not really. The term is used almost exclusively for patience with difficult people. It's reflecting God's own character. He is slow to anger. It's a sanctified, slow reaction time.
A sanctified, slow reaction time. I think we all need that. But this whole idea of humility as strength, that's been challenged, hasn't it? I'm thinking of Nietzsche.
Right. Nietzsche famously dismissed all of this as slave morality.
What did he mean by that?
He argued it was basically a coping mechanism. The weak can't win with power, so they resent the strong and invent a new morality where their weakness, humility, patience, is redefined as a virtue.
It's an inversion of his will to power.
That's his take, yes.
So what's the robust rebuttal to that?
Well, the Christian apologetic is that this biblical meekness is actually a superior form of strength. It's infinitely harder. As Proverbs says, the person who rules their own spirit is stronger than the one who takes a city.
And what about the historical outcome?
The sources point out that the Roman Empire, which was built on that master morality of power, it eventually collapsed. The church, built on bearing with one another, survived. It proved to be the stronger social glue.
Which brings us to that last phrase, bearing with one another. It explicitly assumes there's going to be friction.
It does. It's like that old porcupine dilemma. You need the warmth of community, but when you get close...
You prick each other.
Exactly. And Paul says to endure that, but to do it in agape, in this committed, sacrificial love, that's the mortar holding it all together.
Okay, so let's fast forward. If Ephesus was the city that rewarded power and self-promotion, what's the modern platform that rewards the absolute opposite of Ephesians 4.2?
It has to be social media, right?
Yeah,
It is the anti-Ephesians 4.2. It's built on self-promotion, not humility, on hot takes, not patience. The whole architecture rewards outrage.
So that leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. What might a Christian digital ethic defined by macrothumia, a kind of slow posting, actually look like?
A deliberate refusal to just react, to refuse to engage with all the vitriol.
Choosing to charitably bear with others online instead of joining the polarization. That refusal to use your power to dominate an argument, that gentleness, is arguably the most radical act of countercultural strength available to us right now.